In 52 BC, an ambitious Roman general, Julius Caesar, motivated by a selfish desire for glory and money, conquered Gaul, slaughtering, subjugating, and enslaving millions. His conquest succeeded not only in expanding the Roman Republic, but in winning him that fame and glory he so desired. The Roman people, disillusioned with Roman politics, were enamoured with Caesar's glory and loved him. And so the state, threatened by this general's immense power, declared him an enemy. 3 years after his conquest, Caesar famously marched his army over the Rubicon River and seized power, declaring himself dictator for life and passing sweeping reforms to grant himself absolute power. In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by members of the Senate, who believed they could restore democracy and save the Roman Republic. But Caesar's reforms and his support amongst the people were too strong. Rome would never recover, the Republic was dead, and the empire began its slow decline into nothing. Caesar's story is tragic. A power-hungry man seizes control of a democratic republic for selfish gain, all with a mandate from the people. Caesar destroyed the Roman Republic, but the people wanted it. He promised them money and power and, for the most part, he succeeded in giving them that. What followed was an intense personality cult where Caesar was worshipped as a god, and those who sought to protect Rome's laws and institutions were portrayed as elitist demons. This sentiment damaged the state beyond repair, and is the first case of what would become known as Caesarism. Caesarism is a term difficult to define. One of the first accounts of this term being used comes from German sociologist Max Weber, who wrote disdainfully about Otto von Bismarck's government. Bismarck, the great unifier of Germany, was the ultimate authoritarian. In his Reich, Germany possessed an elected parliament and various checks and balances to his power. But, crucially, these were only on paper. Bismarck instead used the existence of seemingly democratic institutions to create an air of legitimacy. In practice, Bismarck held contempt for the elected parliament, routinely ignoring their rulings and advice, and governing Germany through emergency legislation. But the people had nothing but love for Bismarck. They allowed him to rule Germany as a Caesar, or Kaiser, and they too held contempt for those who wished to build strong German institutions. After him, the weak institutions that had been built turned Germany into a state which relied on the existence of a strong man and a weak parliament. Populist support for the imperial Kaisers allowed them to destroy Germany and almost ruin its chances to succeed as a democratic, institutionally strong state. And this is just one example of Caesarism. Similar thought arose in the states of fascist Italy under Mussolini and Napoleon's France, states which were built on personality cults and the personal charisma of a strong man, states which crumbled when said figures were gone. Caesarist states also possess a key tenet, a disdain for independent thought. Caesars create societies where only adherence to the mass line and public sentiment can ensure safety. Those who wish to remain safe must appeal to the will of the emotional public. Anyone who attempts to defend any kind of institutions or rule of law will be demonized as enemies of the people. Many of you watching may be noticing some similarities with today's world. Caesars who appeal to mass emotion in pursuit of personal power. After all, the conditions today are right. Crises create the conditions for these people to gain momentum. Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul, which caused a deep rift between the Roman Senate and military, created a crisis that propelled him to become dictator. The destruction of Europe after World War I gave the continent Caesars in Italy, Germany, and Russia. And today, current economic and social woes are creating more. Russia's economic collapse after the dissolution of the Soviet Union gave us Putin, who promised the angry public the bloodshed they wanted in Chechnya and provided economic solutions by co-opting the support of the oligarchy, in return for more and more power, of course. In the West, economic crises brought on by the failure of the global capitalist system are allowing for the right conditions for strong men to exploit. As inequality spreads and more people become economic losers, Caesarist figures will find an audience more easily duped with grand promises. The rise of extremist populist parties in Europe is something which can be traced back to 2008, when the world saw the biggest global recession since the Great Depression. The Greek financial crisis facilitated the rise of Golden Dawn. In Spain, they got Podemos for the far right and Vox for the far left. In Italy, the Five Star Movement and, of course, more recently, Fratelli d'Italia. In my home country, Ireland, the failures of the establishment to provide basic needs like housing and affordable healthcare is currently fueling radical parties, as Sinn Féin garners more far-left's populist support, and the far-right panders to xenophobia and racism, blaming the current crises on migrants and refugees. And, of course, the most famous Caesarist politician in recent years, Donald Trump, who derived a support base made up mostly of those who lost out economically and felt ignored. The increase of dissatisfaction and distrust in the establishment creates fertile ground for the exploitation of anger to destroy institutions and damage democracy. But how can this be prevented? Caesarist politicians are alluring because they provide promises and certainty to those who live in dysfunction. Preventing it requires addressing these people's genuine concerns and recognizing that current institutions of financialism and capitalism have failed a lot of people. Most of all, preventing these kinds of conditions requires listening. People who follow far-right and far-left populists are doing so because they feel ignored and outcast, and it doesn't help when non-populist leaders call them ignorant and brush away their feelings. This continued ignoring of people's genuine woes and concerns only causes more dissatisfaction and more anger. Julius Caesar's reign ended when a group of senators and politicians assassinated him. What they thought would happen was the re-establishment of Rome's republican institutions. They took a dramatic course of action, and they failed. They failed because they did not genuinely address the concerns of those who followed the man they killed, and because they failed to listen, Rome would never recover, falling into imperial tyranny. Populism and Caesarism cannot be defeated by trying to violently destroy it. It can only be defeated by trying to listen to those who follow it. When people aren't listened to, all it takes is one man to cross the Rubicon for it all to end. Thanks for watching. This video was brought to you by the beautiful people over on Patreon. Special shout out to my huge guys, Joshua Rawl, Mike Fish 99, Olivia Bolivia, and Shimon Hainos. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If you'd like to see your name on screen, then consider donating to my Patreon, where you can access videos in advance and get access to behind-the-scenes scripts and research material. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one, hopefully very, very soon. Take care.